Hello everyone and welcome to VenturiOne 7.6. Thanks to customer feedback, we've been able to introduce some exciting new features that will help accelerate both your clinical and research-based work. This video will be introducing you to some of the latest main features we've implemented in this new update. So sit back and enjoy. The first new feature you'll see when you open VenturiOne is that we now have 6 FCS headers that can be included into the playlist. This allows you to pick an FCS keyword that can be displayed for all samples within the playlist. This could be a sample identifier of some sort, such as a sample ID or well ID. For a while we've been able to show 2 items in the playlist, but now you can have up to 6 items displayed. If you don't wish to display all the items, you can right-click on the heading and deselect the headings you don't want to see. These headings will be stored with the playlist. Additionally, we now have a group comment field. A group comment is a specific type of comment you can add to a report. Previously, comments that you added to a report would appear on all group reports. Now you have the additional option of having text that is specific to one group. We will look at this in more detail later. If you don't use groups or don't need group comments, you can also turn off the group column from the playlist to minimize the number of columns. The next new feature is the inclusion of data tables. Data tables allow you to easily create tables that can then be used for reports and can also be exported. Data tables can be found on the Workspace tab called Data Tables. This is where I can now create a new data table. Click Add New Table. I can give the table a name and choose the number of rows and columns that I want the table to display. The table will then be created and I can resize the columns at any time. Into a data table, you can click and type text, or you can insert a custom field. Custom fields are created in the Report tab and are used to pick up particular results from distinct regions. Here, for example, I have isolated CD3, CD4, CD8 and CD19 results, both the count and the percentage. So now I can pick any of these items and place those into the table, and on every sample the table will be automatically updated to reflect the appropriate values. In custom fields, I can also do calculations such as CD4-CD8 ratios. I can also do rules that will say if a value is between X and Y, display a certain text, for example, normal or abnormal. You can also add constants, and these can be used for calculations, such as the calculation of absolute counts. All of these custom fields can be included in a data table. To add a custom field to a data table, make sure you're on the Data Tables tab and choose the Custom Field icon. This will allow you to insert any of the items you have already created. For example, if I want to type in a CD3 result, I can pick from the custom field the CD3 percentage and either press Enter or click outside the box to bring in that value. So now that shows me the CD3 percentage for that current sample. I can then pick the CD3 count, and that will tell me how many CD3 positive cells I have. I can repeat this process for the other markers I want to report. Once we have a data table, you can then simply send that data table to the report by clicking the Send to Report button on the Data Table tab. That will then give you a table of results that you can move to wherever you want on the report. This allows you to easily include individual results in a clear way onto your report. As you change samples, these data tables will be updated for each different sample. So here, if I click on the next sample, the values have updated appropriately, and the third, and the fourth. Here we see an example of a more complicated report. So, in this example report, we have normal text fields, which would appear on all reports. Here I can just manually type in the information I want to appear in a particular field. I can also use tables and custom fields to pick and put some of this information in. I have plots retrieved from my sample, I have a data table that has results, and I have another data table that's performing calculations. So here we're doing T-lint for sums and CD4-CD8 ratios. And we also have rules inserted from custom fields to say whether a particular item is normal or abnormal. Here we have our group report comment. So the group comment, if you remember, is text that appears on a grouped sample. A normal text box would appear on all reports, whereas the group comment can be individual for each distinct group. So here, for example, I have a group comment to say this particular sample is a normal result. If I go to my next sample, the results and plots are updated to reflect the new sample. Another way of adding comments is to use the group comment and use a constant. A constant can be defined in the custom fields dialog. You can define a series of custom comments that you may want to add. In this particular example, I have a constant to say that a sample is not normal. So if I come across a sample such as this, where the results are not normal, what you can do is go in and pick your predefined constant. In this case, we'll say abnormal, and it will pick the text associated with that sample. So that will be added to the report here on that particular sample. This feature helps with speed and ease of reporting. In response to customer feedback, we've made reporting easier with the addition of a new Quick Export button. Here, when you click on the Quick Export button, the system will now export items that have been predefined in the VenturiOne options. So here you can automatically export CSV and XML results from the results table. You can use new data tables and just export in CSV and XML format. You can now export directly to a PDF and Microsoft PowerPoint, and you can also export plot images. You can choose which of these export options you want. You may want to only export one type, for example the CSV data table. You may want to export just the current table or all data tables within a sample. And then you can choose whether you export the data from just the current table or all grouped reports. Selecting Export Files and Folders allows us to choose how the export files will be named, and this will include items such as the playlist name, the export item, the group, and a timestamp. If you have the Sysmex SciFlow Workflow Assistant software, then we can export out an XML file that is compatible with the SciFlow Workflow Assistant. We can also choose which folder the files are exported to. We can ask the system to prompt on export. We could also use the folder where the playlist is currently stored, or you can enter your nominated folder. You can also ask the system to create a subfolder from FCS Keywords. This could be a sample identifier so that the system will create a separate folder for each of your results. It will create that subfolder automatically, and you can have up to 2 levels of subfolder hierarchy that are used. So the idea is that when you're reporting files, if you have a number of files to report in group mode, you can select each sample, look at the sample results, and then add either a manual comment or pick from one of your custom constants, and then export those results. Move on to the next sample, enter a comment if you require, and then click Quick Export. Again, this reduces the number of clicks in order to report your result. Also new to VenturiOne version 7.6 is the spectral plot. A spectral plot can be created and will display all of the fluorescence detectors against intensity. You can use this spectral plot whether you're using a conventional flow cytometer or a spectral flow cytometer. The spectral plot can give you an overview of all the parameters within a file. You can also gate that plot. For example, here I can show the results of all the lymphocytes against each detector. I can also gate it on something more specific, so I could look at just the B cells, for example. So here we see the plot displayed from a conventional flow cytometer with 10 fluorescence parameters. We can also display the spectral plot on a spectral flow cytometer, such as the Cytec Aurora. So here we have a sample with many more fluorescence parameters. And in the same way, you can gate that plot on scatter, or any fluorescence signal you want to get an overview of that particular population on all detectors within the file. Thanks for watching this short webinar. We hope you enjoy the new features of VenturiOne, and as always, any feedback you may have would be greatly appreciated.